This is the garage where Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak spent their days musing about the future of personal computers. This is a typical Harvard dorm room, similar to the one where Mark Zuckerberg programmed the first version of Facebook. And this is an aero bed mattress that kicked off one of today's largest hospitality businesses. Many of us have heard the fascinating history of Airbnb, a startup unicorn before unicorns were a thing. It swept in, reinvented the way we travel, and changed whole communities of locals and tourists. That's a lot of responsibility to lay upon one company. Or is it not enough?
Our real innovation is not allowing people to book a home. It's designing a framework to allow millions of people to trust one another. Trust is the real energy source that drives Airbnb and has enabled us to scale our platform to 191 countries and to more than 600 million members. In this letter to Airbnb employees, CEO Brian Chesky addressed a recent PR nightmare. In October 2019, a shooting at a party hosted at an Airbnb location led to 5 deaths. Chesky soon announced the platform's ban on party houses and the decision to use risk detection models to find reservations with alarming patterns. Problems like this are inevitable in any business with such a huge customer base, especially ones using the peer-to-peer model. When Chesky and his friend and co-founder Gebbia went knocking on investors' doors back in 2008, they faced a lot of doubt.
Airbnb is founded really on the premise of trust. When we started Airbnb, I remember telling people about the idea, and people said, "You're crazy." And I said, "Why am I crazy?" They said, "Strangers will never trust one another to stay in homes."
Strangers will never trust one another.
Weird to hear this in today's world where we literally pay strangers to drive us places, deliver our food, and let us in their homes. And it's the world created partly by Airbnb.
In art school, you learn that design is much more than the look and feel of something, it's the whole experience. And we learned to do that for objects, but here, we were aiming to build Olympic trust between people who had never met.
Any management guru will tell you, before starting a business, first study the market. In today's startup world, it doesn't always work like that. Airbnb's founding story deserves its own sitcom. Fresh art school graduate Joe Gebbia just had both his roommates move out of a 3-bedroom apartment, leaving him with a ton of free space and no money to pay for the whole place. He invited his school lab partner Brian Chesky to occupy one of the rooms, but the price was still too overwhelming. After a long brainstorming session, they decided to try something so crazy that it might actually work. The insane idea Chesky and Gebbia came up with was offering fellow designers to crash at their apartment during the weekend of a big design conference in the city. 3 air mattresses, 1 simple website made by a freelance developer, support of a few friendly blogs, and magically, they had their first guests. Having paid the landlord to the end of the month, the friends realized this might be an opportunity, and they didn't want to let it pass.
And we call it the Air Bed and Breakfast.
During the first year of Air Bed and Breakfast's existence, the friends were tapping into a truly niche market, and understandably so. The hospitality market didn't suffer overdemand in general, but it did during big events. They soon realized that the traffic started dropping as soon as events ended, and it was simply unsustainable. Struggling to find funding, the company decided to play with the breakfast part of the name and sell thematic cereal with a nod to the upcoming presidential elections. They managed to sell a lot of Obama O's boxes before the company got picked by Y Combinator, a startup accelerator responsible for the growth of Dropbox, Stripe, and Twitch. That's where they finally ditched the air mattress branding and realized the true opportunity: vacation rentals. Before Airbnb, the market for vacation rentals existed sporadically and wasn't digitized at all. Suddenly, many people owning beach houses and rural cottages they visited once or twice per year got a chance to profit from that space by renting it all year long. In business language, it's called optimizing underutilized assets, and this is the case for the sharing economy. Easy to understand why the sharing economy model of Airbnb has worked so well. First, in 2008, the world was still battling with the consequences of the recession.
Airbnb made it possible to connect budget travelers with hosts willing to earn a few extra bucks. Second, Airbnb came to replace couchsurfing, a popular movement that started in the early 2000s. Hosts willingly moved to the new platform that allowed them to set a humble price for their welcoming vibes. And third, let's not forget about the growth of e-commerce, social media impact, and data innovation that allowed Airbnb to bloom in the world where strangers online stopped being potential abductors. However, Airbnb's "live like a local" tagline soon backfired. New York, Paris, Berlin, Barcelona, and San Francisco are some of the most visited cities in the world, with strict policies regarding short-term rentals in residential areas, and they'd been like this for a long time. But when Airbnb appeared, the volume of short-term rentals reached the point where it couldn't be ignored anymore, and local governments started pushing for licensing and levying fees on a huge number of Airbnb hosts. So for the past few years, Airbnb has engaged in legal battles in order to keep big chunks of its business running. San Francisco is probably the most prominent example of Airbnb losing this fight. Half of San Francisco's listings had to be cut, listings from hosts who failed to register or applied incorrect information. The problem is not with Airbnb or private hosts trying to earn a bit of extra cash from a vacation home. It's that the platform is fertile soil for commercial organizations that change the face of communities. In October 2019, writer Ali Conti posted her investigation about the wide-scale scam that unfolded on Airbnb. She, among other travelers, booked an allegedly fake listing on the website created by a network of fake hosts. Before check-in, she received a call informing her that her rental house had a sudden plumbing problem and that she could change the booking to stay at a different, even better place. It wasn't like that at all. Alternative places were in a bad condition. But since guests already checked in, they couldn't get a full refund. Some didn't even try. Although Airbnb reacted to the issue by removing some of the problematic listings, the investigation showed that the company may have a problem with checking their hosts, even ones awarded a super host badge. Following the Ali Conti story, Airbnb set itself on a mission to verify all 7 million of its listings to reclaim trust. A new guest guarantee program and a 24/7 hotline should help the issue as well. Airbnb is one of those companies used for startup comparisons. There's Airbnb for dogs called Dog Vacay, Airbnb for camping called Hip Camp, and an endless list of product hunt ideas with similar names. Airbnb created a new business model that dozens of Silicon Valley residents want to try to repeat. The existing online booking platforms tried to keep up also. In 2015, Expedia bought HomeAway to use its vacation rentals inventory for its own platform. And Booking.com has been growing its short-term rentals business even earlier, partnering with professionally managed apartment aggregator Interhome and later launching a separate site called Villas, which soon became a part of the initial website. But Airbnb seems to have bigger plans. Just look at its acquisitions. Hotel Tonight, the last-minute booking app. Urbandoor, accommodations for business people. Geist, a platform for booking venues. Its 2017 acquisition of Luxury Retreats has evolved into Lux in 2019. This shows that Airbnb doesn't stop at its current market share and plans to cover all forms of accommodations, perhaps even building their own. The company also grows horizontally by capturing more travel segments apart from accommodations. Airbnb Experiences is aimed at helping tourists not only live like locals, but meet them in somewhat authentic circumstances, like learning to make macarons in Paris or having a true Brooklyn food experience, mainly about locally sourced food. Not only is this on brand for Airbnb, but also very relevant to the poorly digitized travel experiences market. Researching for things to do is one of the most cumbersome travel tasks, and this may be the exact solution tourists have been looking for. Airbnb's recent initiative is called Adventures, the service that may come for traditional tourist agencies and their pre-planned trips. Now, Airbnb is trying to solve a whole package of problems, taking care of living, eating, and experiencing from one place via one click. Do you think the flights are missing? Airbnb is planning to cover that segment too. At least that's what the recent hire suggests. It's unclear how the transportation service will work,
but it seems like they're planning to do it their own way, creating the ultimate travel experience.
This is literally just the beginning. And I mean literally. I mean, we even have more spaces in this icon. And all of this comes together to the Trip platform. That's in a single app.